Hi guys, it's Caleb coming at you again today with another video, and today I want to talk about a subject that I find absolutely appalling. I'm not sure if you know about it yet, but Chelsea Clinton recently sat down for a Sirius XM radio interview where she said that overturning Roe v. Wade would be unchristian. Now, I haven't talked about it extensively because I don't feel that it's necessary, nor do I want to sound too preachy, but I am a devout Christian. And I don't know what Bible she reads from, but it's certainly appalling that she would say that it's unchristian to protect the lives of the unborn. I want to, before I go any further, to play the clip so that you're able to hear what she said, and then we'll discuss it.
But as a deeply religious person, it's also unchristian. Whenever we talk about Roe, we're talking, that fight has been happening through the entirety of our lives. My mother had that fight. My grandmother had that. I mean, how can you keep from like the generational exhaustion? When I think about all of the statistics that are painful of what women are confronting, Zerlina, today in our country, and what even more women confronted pre-Roe, and how many women died, and how many more women were maimed because of unsafe abortion practices. We just can't go back to that. Like, that's unconscionable to me. And also, and I'm sure that this will unleash another wave of hate in my direction, but as a deeply religious person, it's also unchristian.
And I talk to even reporters who
called
cover
Nazi.
just healthcare all the time, right? They get the worst hate. The anti-choice folks are really some of the ugliest, and gun lovers.
Yeah,
right. Too.
I've been compared to slave owners and Nazis in the last couple of months.
Oh, delightful.
So,
just because you want women to have access to healthcare.
Our ability to participate fully in our society, including economically, hinges on our ability to be able to make choices for our bodies.
Christian. I've waited until now because I don't want to be labeled as a Christian commentator. That is to say, not that I'm ashamed of my faith, but my message is not exclusively for Christians. It's for all people, all who will listen, and we're all in this fight together. But now, given the content of the comments, I felt I have a moral duty to address her comments, that she would suggest that it's unchristian to overturn Roe versus Wade. You know, we just celebrated Constitution Day yesterday. 231 years ago yesterday, the Constitution became the United States supreme law of the land. And let's not forget that Roe versus Wade was unconstitutional action. It's judicial activism, which I will talk about in another video in the future, I'm sure. But if the Constitution was being followed, we wouldn't even have to worry about this crap, because Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution says that all legislative powers are invested in the Congress. Congress is made up of two houses. Let's go back to basic civics, guys. Two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. They're the ones who make the laws. The Supreme Court's job is to interpret the law and to make sure that it's constitutional, not to rule and to make laws. 6 or 7 guys in black robes cannot legislate for the whole country. That's tyranny. So if the Constitution that we just celebrated yesterday was being followed, Mrs. Clinton, we wouldn't have to worry about this bull crap. But then for you to say that it's unchristian, allow me, as a Christian, although I don't claim to be the perfect messenger, allow me to direct you to some scripture. What about in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, where God was speaking to Jeremiah and he was talking about his calling. And he said, before you were even born, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I set you apart as a prophet among the nations. What about that? Before he was even born. So, Mrs. Clinton, before he was even a fetus. Oh, and if you know your Latin, fetus means young one, young child. So don't even try to act like fetus doesn't mean unborn child. You always want to dance around the issue by calling a child a fetus. But if you knew your Latin, you would know that you're acknowledging the truth. They are an unborn child. But before Jeremiah was even an unborn child, God cared about him. God set him apart for a specific duty. What about in Luke chapter 17? If you're not familiar with the story, allow me to refresh you. Where the disciples came up to Jesus after he was teaching, and a large crowd of children came up to Jesus, and they were sitting on his lap and playing with him. Jesus loved kids. But the disciples, they said, no, get away from the master. He doesn't have time. He's teaching right now. He doesn't have time to mess with you kids. And Jesus rebuked the disciples and told them that a man would be better off if he had a millstone tied around his neck and thrown into the sea than to cause a child to stumble. And you want to say it's unchristian to protect the lives of unborn children? That makes me sick. Absolutely sick. I don't know what Bible you're reading from, Chelsea Clinton, but I suggest that you pick it up, and that's a good place to start. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it around. Be sure to subscribe below. Click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.